I was just talking about counting the blessings through the fall, turn my pain into a plan. Now I'm answering the call. Heavy is the crown, but I wore through it all. Like no capping when I'm snapping, no cocaine. I'm
Started running the block, now I'm coaching every play. Back when it was crimson and blue, repping KU every day from Texas to Lawrence Nights. I was built for the grind, learned the game, the struggles turned that pain to a shine. Turf burns on my arms, rings deep in my chest. Every snap was a war, I was fighting for respect. Taking J-Hawk, that name still ring out by the style. Fit of me was me, that J-Hawk. Talking about counting blessings through the fall. It's one thing to a plan, now I'm answering the call. Heavy is the crown.
What's going on, everybody? Good to see you again. Welcome back to the second episode of Future Sundays. I'm your host, Texas Jayhawk, and we had one episode and we had a great response, had a lot of views, comments, and suggestions. And the main one that I also caught was when talking about or evaluating NFL or potential NFL talent, you have to kind of know, or it's good to know what the criteria is. Now, it changes from team to team, but overall, there are just a couple of traits that are universal that are evaluated within each player. It is overall, there's some overall criteria, and then there's position specific criteria. And let's talk about and name and list those real quick. Okay, so whether it's in the combine or when they come to your school and do pro days, things like that, get the film, they put all it together. The initial or the overall criteria that scouts evaluate players are: one, mental processing. Does this player have the mental ability or the mental speed necessary to key and diagnose situations, make adjustments, play with awareness? You know, the NFL game is very much different from the college game. There are individual differences on how these traits are manifested through film, through one-on-one evaluation. Okay. A lot of times when writing scouting reports, when they're doing things, the word like instincts is kind of frowned upon and it's kind of vague, ambiguous. So people or scouts don't like to use that. So they'll use mental processing instead of instincts. But the next one is competitive toughness. Now, this is pretty self-explanatory, but does the player have the ability to display aggressive, passionate attitude, execute his assignments versus all competition, not just lesser or weaker competition? That's a little more widespread in the college game, but in NFL, 32 franchises, and it's the cream of the crop. Examples of that is like being aggressive at the point of attack, whether that's on the offensive side or the defensive side. You know, what is their physical toughness? What is their mental toughness? Things like that. Are they able to perform in critical moments on third down, short yardage situations when the game is at a critical moment, so stuff like that. Another one is the athletic ability. Now, that's pretty vague. That's pretty general, but it's a display of quickness, agility, balance, acceleration, explosiveness, change of direction. And that goes across for all positions. You need that in all positions. So there will be a study on the player's athletic ability. A lot of times when writing scout reports, players will or scouts will talk about their body type and their athletic ability. And that's something that's needed on all scouting reports, on all evaluations. The next one is play speed. Does the player display the ability to play at the necessary speed to carry out assignments? Can this player play speed differ in different situations? Can they combine it with the mental processing along with their athletic ability? Okay, so when you see a summary or a report on a player, it'll be detailed things, not just play speed, but play speed at certain times or using them at the appropriate moments, playing under control, body control. So another one is play strength. Does this player have the ability to win one-on-ones when they're engaged with players? This can be at the point of attack. This can be running routes. This can be covering routes. This could be blocking one-on-one at the line of scrimmage, what have you, just to be able to function. Okay. So with all those traits being discussed, the criteria, if you will, that's general. Okay. So when you go from position, now it gets a little more specific. Okay. So for the running back position, who we're looking at today, vision, create. Does the player have the ability to create, find a lane, create space, daylight, improvise when blocking breaks down, things like that? Being able to adjust on the fly. Vision is a little different from mental processing in that, you look at more that what does the running back see? Can he read holes? Does he see cutbacks? That, does he have that ability to create? A lot of times when player or coaches are coaching running backs, you don't want to handcuff them and say, yeah, this is how the blocking scheme is set up. This is where you should run. But things happen and plays 99% of the times never go exactly the way you draw them up. Okay. Another criteria is burst. Does the player display the ability to accelerate to top speed while hitting the hole in order to separate from defenders, make people miss as well? Can he get through a hole quickly enough to gain the extra yards? Maybe if a lineman missed the block, maybe if they only got a piece of him and his momentum or his, burst got him that extra yard. Okay. The next one is finish, yards after contact. Does the player, what do they do in the hole? What do they do at the end of runs? This is real big. You're going to see here in a minute about finishing runs. How do they finish? Are they able to get that yard needed to get the first down to continue drives? Are they passive? Those are things that are evaluated. And the next one is passing game. And that's kind of broken up into two things. One on pass catching ability and then pass blocking. We all know that it is important, and the most important player on the field in the NFL is the quarterback. So you've got to be able to protect the quarterback. So things like technique, your strength, your play strength comes into that. Do you have the ability to block linebackers, secondary guys, or are you a liability in pass blocking? Now, pass catching, same thing. You'll be evaluated almost like a receiver, is in the sense of, are you a body catcher or are you a hands catcher? Do you extend? Do you try to go up and high point the ball, or do you drop passes? Are you not able to stay on the field for third downs if that's needed in the passing game or in the pass blocking game? Okay, so those are the position specific criteria for the running back. So when we watch some clips here of this next player, we're gonna talk about those things, and I'm gonna point out some of those things and kind of give you a better idea of what scouts are looking at when they're evaluating potential NFL talent or NFL prospects. Okay, now we're going to get into Justice Haynes, a running back from the University of Michigan, 5'11", 210 pounds. Where's the number 22? Anyway, he is a dynamic workhorse running back. He is draft eligible this year. He is actually injured for the rest of the season, but he does have enough film that he's able to be evaluated. Runs a 4.49. Played high school ball in Georgia. Blessed Trinity Catholic. Some say he was a 4-star. Some say he was a 5-star. He was originally at Alabama, if you remember that name. Bloodline. He's the son of a Georgia running back, Veron Haynes, who was a Pittsburgh Steeler running back, who was also a Super Bowl champion as well. So I like this kid. Has a lot of upside. Obviously, there are some weaknesses that will be addressed, but there's some weaknesses that he can improve upon, So some of his strengths, I like to point out, he's got a great burst when he's carrying the ball. He has good balance through traffic, run through arm tackles. He creates ways to get yards at the contact. We have a term called hand pop, where he's losing balance, but you pop your hand down and you create your balance, almost a third leg, if you will. Good mental processing. He's very decisive with his footwork. Sees cutback lanes when the blocking is not there at the point of attack. Runs with good pad level, momentum. Uses his weight and strength well. Sometimes there's question marks there, but he's got a compact body type. Got great. Or should I say good? I'll say good. Change of direction ability. Some of his weaknesses, the biggest thing that stands out is his pass protection fundamentals. Needs a lot of work on that. Bad technique, drops his head, stops his feet, doesn't use his hands properly. That could be a big question on him being an every down back in the NFL. Definitely a liability. Sometimes his play competitiveness is a question. He's had some injury, so that could play a part in it, but finishing runs, sometimes he's passive or runs out of bounds. A lot of guys I know in today's game, they say save yourself, but the running back position is a little different. And in the NFL, you've got to be able to get every yard you can, because those carries are limited and your shelf life is somewhat limited. So taking advantage of those opportunities and showing you want to compete against this type of competition is paramount. So sometimes he shies away from contact. So that's raised some questions as well. All right. So hopefully that wasn't too much, but just some background on what the criteria is and some quick background on Justice Haynes. So now let's go to some film. So we're going to talk about some pass blocking situations right here, okay? So right here, he does a good job of setting up, knowing where he needs to be. They run a little twist with the linebackers, a little X bomb, if you will. Does a good job. Now, the criticism is high on his pass blocking ability, but speaking from experience and watching, a lot of ball over my lifetime, it is hard to stop a linebacker with a running start, a 5 to 6 yard running start. He does a good job of absorbing the blow. You'd like to see him just run his feet, get his hands inside, but gets the job done in that situation to at least not let a hit get on the quarterback. Look at the end zone. Good job. At least he's the lowest man, gives a good pop. Good job stopping his momentum. Go here off play action. See right here, this is an easier situation. Right here is an example of him stopping his feet, being a little passive in pass blocking. I don't know if he stopped because he thought maybe the guy running a corner cat right here was his man. And he goes here, and maybe he wanted to stop to get back inside, but he's got to be more decisive on what he wants to do. If not, a lot of times when I was a player, even when I was coaching, we tell these guys, if you block the wrong guy or if you do the wrong assignment, do it 100%, okay? So quarterback takes a hit right there. Can't have that happen. Off the play action again. Got a linebacker screaming from 7 yards deep. Does a good job there. Pops him, boom, drops his butt, but he also drops his head a little bit. But he gets the job done, stops the momentum, but not running his feet, not getting his hands inside. It's just the initial blow. Quarterback has to flush because of pressure from the backside as well. So I'm not going to put that on him, but we're just talking about technique and how he blocks his assignment and his man. Let's look at the end zone real quick. So you'll see here, again, linebacker coming screaming, and they run another X stunt with the backers. Good job, but he gets his head back up though. Just initially, you don't want to see him dip his head right there. That's not good. Safety or technique. Right here, kind of absorb, takes it a little bit of passive. Still has enough strength though to kind of stop and slow this linebacker down and keep him off the quarterback. Okay, passes incomplete. You would like to see him, just be a tad more decisive on assignments. I know you have to kind of see what spreads out, but he already knows he's not going to have a D lineman for the blocking assignment. So it's linebackers to secondary. So he's got to have better eyes. You see here, maybe not sure if he's play actioning. You see him right here, eyes. Then he gets there, kind of hops to it. Got to run through that. Set your feet and run through that. Right here is a bad example. Just passive on his technique and his competitiveness and just really competing. Got to do better. Gives up an 8 in the sack. First down, normal downs. Wow, does a good job protecting the ball. Contact, yards after contact right there. That's good competitiveness, good play strength, good competitive, good toughness all around, good run. And you can see it in his body language. See right here, Michigan's running power right here. Stays tight. Does a good job with his pad level. Look at that. Creates more yards for himself. It's another, wow. Unblocked guy goes right at him. Boom. Keeps his feet, does a hell of a job keeping his feet moving. Gains about 4.5 more yards. Let's look in the end zone. So we talk about point of attack. Boom, runs this guy over. Look at those feet. Look at that leg drive. Good job. Good play balance. So right here is an example. We're talking about being competitive. Right here, use your off arm. He's got the ball in the outside arm, which is correct technique when carrying the ball. Give a stiff arm, dip your shoulder, chicken wing it, whatever. Real passive on that finish right there, carrying the ball. Right here, you see him kind of slows his feet down right there. That would definitely be a ding against him when evaluating. Okay. All right, here we go. Looks like a zone insert scheme. Does a good job of bouncing, getting around the corner, gaining yards. Again, running out of bounds. I don't know. You could finish a little better, you know. And this is another point I want to make right here. You let up. These defenders aren't letting up, whether it's a penalty or not. They might knock you into the damn bleachers or the stands, or you don't know what's on their sideline. Okay. So you've also got to protect yourself from running the ball. And I really believe, especially playing a position, you run and finish the runs the right way, you decrease your chance of being injured. You know, when you let up and you think the other person's going to let up because you're on the sideline or about to be out of bounds, that's how you get hurt. Oh, definitely goes into it right there. All right, we got 3rd and 1 right here. Definitely going to look at some competitive toughness, see if he can get what we need right here. 3rd and 1. Good job making a cut, sticking his foot, good burst, getting vertical. 1st down. Short yardage back. That's a good job being a short yardage back. And you got to wear many hats when you're playing this position if you want to be a 3-down back in the league. Good job getting an extra yard or two. Let's watch it. The film kind of cuts off quick. Like they're running duo. Good cut. Gets low. Boom. Good burst. Gets another yard. Gets the 1st down. Let's look at the end zone. Good job. Gets a spin at the end to create an opportunity to get more yards. Good job right there. All right, a little toss scheme, little pin pull. Gets to the edge. Nice. Elusiveness. Make them miss. Create. That's what we talked about earlier with the criteria. Creating more yards. If a block is not made or if there's nobody there to block them, 1, 2, gets 2 more yards. Good job there. Use it right there, stiff arm, create, not too tough, but knocks his hand down. Uses it again. Good job there. Oof, makes him miss. Those are all great examples right there of him creating on his own. Those were all unblocked guys that he made miss. 1, 2, gave it a little hezzy right there. They say in basketball, a little hezzy, a little stutter. Boom. Change the tempo of his speed. Being able to stop, change direction, make guys miss. Good job pressing. Good job pressing the line of scrimmage. Just a natural bend. Saw the cutback lane. Good burst right here. This is against Oklahoma, who's a very good team. Touchdown. Long speed example. Let's look at the end zone real quick, just how he sees that cutback and just off of his path, pressing the point of attack and just having a natural bend, seeing the cutback. Because they've got a counter scheme. So it's designed to go to the right. He sees it. And this is something to hear because this is great. You talk to anybody that's played ball, that's coached it, there's hardly ever a cutback in a counter scheme. Not to where it's all the way back across the center. It's a good job right there. Good burst, getting through the hole, virtually untouched. Long speed. Little zone insert right here. Good patience right here, right here. Burst. Was he able to get was he able to get through the hole? If you watch right here at this point of attack right here in this space, when there's defenders converging on him, unblocked, is he able to make it through there with his burst? And the question or the answer is yes. Beating guys on angles. Guy got him at the end, but that is a great explosive play for the offense. Let's look at the end zone real quick. Good job. Talk about the patience. Good job. Look what it does to this guy, right? This linebacker. Yeah, he's got to play his gap. There's a lot of daylight right here. This linebacker's got to play the gap, but him being patient and not rushing and not taking the first thing, because a lot of times there's false daylight. You know, we've heard that term before, some of the old heads, but there's false daylight, and that's exactly what he did a good job of being patient, knowing where the scheme or where the blocking was set up for him to go. Sets him up, sets his blocks up for his O-line to make him easier. Explosive play. Good example of burst. Boom. Right there. First down run. End zone. 5-man front. Boom. Ran past that guy unblocked. Engaged right here. Takes him another 2 yards. It's a good job. Now right here, I wanna show this just because a lot of times people may not see it. People will say, "Well, yeah, great job, seeing the cutback." But there's a couple of things right here in the end zone to give you a better example. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about it first. So he presses first of all, he doesn't press the line like he did on previous runs to really hide himself to get up in there. So that was the first thing he didn't do. And he does see the cutback, but he's a little out of control making that cutback. If he makes a different type of cut, or he just kind of gears down and kind of bends with the cutback and stays tight. I had a running back coach I worked with at the University of Louisiana Lafayette, Marcus Lovins. He always used the term of rubbing paint. And what he meant by that was stay as tight as you can in your blockers to almost where you're rubbing the paint, the paint off their numbers. You want to stay tight because linebackers or defenders are coached to fill space, attack gaps. Okay. Where there's daylight, they want to close that daylight. Okay. So right here, so when he runs this play, you're going to see him make a jump cut or cut back almost out of control. And there's a defender that is able to make the play on him. And if he stays tight, if he rubs paint, he's going to run past this defender. Gets a cut. It's almost like out of, he's too aggressive with that cut. So if he stays here and he's able to plant this next foot and go that way, this is the next guy that he's got to worry about. But this guy, because he almost brings himself to that defender, this guy's able to make a play and it's a minimal gain. So that's a criteria of body control. Okay. All right. So just, watching this kid, I watched about 3 or 4 games. Now, one thing you're going to say is that we didn't see any pass catching clips, not much to work from or to evaluate where you want to say, oh, he's a, hands, arm extender, all hands catcher, he's a body catcher. Now, this is just from this season. And like I say, this kid is out for the rest of the season with a foot injury. So he's going to have film. And, the foot injury is not, career ending or career threatening. Okay. So, he's got film from Alabama, but definitely because he is injured and couldn't finish the season, that will raise questions as far as durability. But just some things I have written down here. I think he'll fit into a zone-heavy gap scheme type, offense at the next level. Probably a RB2 or probably have to be in a rotational type situation as a running back or whatever that scheme is. He's definitely a dynamic, and he is dual threat. I mean, he can catch the ball. He does have that ability. He does have some return ability. I think he did that at the University of Alabama. He might be a situational guy, which means he might only be able to be on the field first and second down if he doesn't clean up things like pass blocking or things like that. Or he's shown some ability to get those third and shorts, must have yardage downs type situations. So like I said, I think he falls into a running back by committee situation. I've got my notes right here. I don't want to just read them, but just I think he will be probably a second day guy. He's a decisive runner, good body frame, good contact balance. I think he's probably a 7.4 out of 10. If you're giving him a grade right now, that's probably a 4th to 5th round draft pick. So it's definitely a day 2, possibly a day 3 guy. My comparisons to him, we always like doing comps, and I've got 2. He definitely reminds me of Mark Ingram, but Mark Ingram's not playing anymore. So the current player that he reminds me of also he's a Nick Chubb type. So I think he definitely has the ability. He has some upside. He has some things that he can clean up to be all around player, but he has to prove and he has to show that. So that was Justice Haynes. I think he translates to the next level and has the ability. He's got all the tools needed. He just has to find a way to refine some of those things. I think this kid is a next level player. He will get a chance at the league. This is just what I think he forecasts as, or what he projects as. You never know what could happen in the future, but he's got the bloodline. Daddy played. Daddy was a physical runner at the University of Georgia. Yeah, that's it. Justice Haynes. That's it for today. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the likes, the subscribing, the comments. If you have a comment on who you'd like to see be evaluated next, I'm definitely open to that. So that's it. I appreciate y'all tuning in to Future Sundays. No hype, no fluff, just ball. See y'all next time.
I was just talking about counting blessings through the fall, turn my payments to a plan. Now I'm answering the call.